Artificial intelligence, right? I mean, it's like everywhere you turn these days. And it's not just sci-fi anymore, it's moving crazy fast.
No doubt about it. I mean, we're seeing breakthroughs practically every other week. It's kind of mind-blowing.
It really is. And to help us break it all down, we're going straight to the source. Well, one of them anyway, Demis Hassabis.
Yeah. When you talk about AI, you got to talk about Hassabis. I mean,
Yeah.
he's the co-founder and CEO of Google DeepMind, so they're right there on the cutting edge. And what's so interesting about him is his background. He's got a PhD in cognitive neuroscience, so he's not just an AI whiz, but he really understands how the human brain works, too.
Yeah, that's a powerful combination, right?
Yeah.
To have that deep knowledge of both like artificial and human intelligence. So he did an interview recently, and the phrase that really stuck out was this idea of cautious optimism.
I saw that.
So that's what we're going to dig into today, right?
Yeah.
What has him so fired up about the future of AI, but also what are the potential downsides, the things we really need to be wary of?
Well, he's got good reason to be optimistic, that's for sure. I mean, look at the progress we've made, even in just the last few years, especially when you look at how AI is being used to solve complex problems. Like, take games, for instance.
Yeah, it's hard to forget when DeepMind's AlphaGo took down the world champion Go player back in 2016, I think it was.
Yeah.
That was a watershed moment for sure.
For sure. I mean, Go is no joke. It's what, like thousands of years old and so incredibly complex, even for humans to master. So for a machine to not just play it, but beat a world champ, that was huge. It really showed the potential of AI.
Absolutely, it was a massive leap.
Yeah.
And it seems like games have been a really valuable tool for AI researchers, wouldn't you say? Like a testing ground for their ideas.
Totally. It gives them this controlled environment to develop and really put their AI systems through the paces. They can see
Mm.
how well they learn, adapt their strategies, all those skills that are essential for what we call artificial general intelligence or AGI. That's the holy grail for a lot of people in the field.
Right, AGI, just to remind everyone, that's the concept of AI that's basically as smart as a human being, able to tackle any intellectual task we can.
So you're saying these game-playing AIs are like stepping stones on the path to AGI.
In a way, yeah. Because games, they require strategy, thinking ahead, planning, anticipating your opponent's moves, all these things we associate with intelligence, right? But, and this is a big but, even though these systems are impressive, AlphaGo, for example, they're still a long way off from true AGI.
Okay, so what's the missing ingredient? What's the difference between a really good Go-playing AI and actual artificial general intelligence?
Well, one of the key differences is how they plan. Like, take AlphaGo again. It doesn't just react to its opponent's moves. It actually creates this whole model of the game inside its code,
Right.
And then it runs simulations, like tons of them, to see how different moves would play out.
So it's thinking many steps ahead, kind of like how we imagine a chess grandmaster strategizes, right? Exactly. And that kind of deep strategic planning, it's something that even our most advanced language models today, like ChatGPT, they don't really have that.
That's interesting because I can have a pretty convincing conversation with ChatGPT, but you're saying it's not really thinking strategically about its responses the same way that AlphaGo is thinking about its next move on the Go board.
Right. There's a big difference between being able to mimic human-like conversation and actually understanding and planning for complex situations the way we do. And that's a big part of what separates the current AI from, true AGI.
That makes sense. So we've got AI that can beat us at our own games, but how do we take those skills from the game board and apply them to the real world? How do we get from a computer playing Go to, say, a robot that can make me a cup of tea when I get home?
Well, that's where embodied AI comes into play. Imagine AI that can interact with the physical world, not just through code and data, but through physical actions, like a robot. So we're talking about self-driving cars that have to navigate traffic, robots working in factories, maybe even, like you said, a robot that can make a cup of tea.
So it's about bridging that gap
Mm.
between the digital world of bits, where AI seems to be most comfortable, and the real world of, atoms and objects and physical stuff.
Precisely. And that's a whole other ball game, so to speak. It's no longer enough for the AI to be great at, like, abstract problem solving.
Yeah.
It's got to be able to perceive its surroundings, navigate physical obstacles. It's got to be able to adapt and plan in real time. And the real world is messy and unpredictable. That's a whole new level of complexity for AI.
Yeah, no kidding. Embodied AI, it sounds incredibly challenging, but also like it has huge potential.
Oh, it absolutely does. It's one of the most exciting and daunting frontiers in AI right now. But it's not the only area where we're seeing some really groundbreaking work. I mean, DeepMind's been using AI to tackle some of the biggest mysteries in biology, too, like their work with AlphaFold on protein folding. That's revolutionary.
Right, AlphaFold. Now, for our listeners who aren't biologists, can you break down why this protein folding thing is such a big deal?
Sure. So proteins, think of them as the building blocks of, well, life, basically.
Right.
Everything in our bodies, from fighting off infections to carrying oxygen in our blood, it all depends on proteins. And the way these proteins fold, their 3D shape, that determines what they do. So their shape is critical.
So, like, if the protein's not folded in the right way, it can't do its job.
Exactly. For decades, scientists have struggled to predict how a protein would fold just by looking at its building blocks, what they call the amino acid sequences, like super complicated. And it was a problem that stumped even the brightest minds for over 50 years.
Wow, 50 years. So how did AlphaFold finally crack the code?
AI, plain and simple. AlphaFold uses AI to predict these incredibly complex 3D protein structures from just their amino acid sequences, and it's amazingly accurate. And this is a total game changer, especially for medicine and scientific research in general.
Yeah, because if we can understand how proteins fold, then we can potentially design new drugs to target specific diseases, right?
Exactly. And not just medicine. This has implications for material science, energy production, even figuring out how to tackle environmental problems. The possibilities are really huge.
It's mind-blowing. So we've got AI mastering games, making moves into the real world with this embodied AI, and even unlocking secrets of biology with AlphaFold. What's next? Where does it all go from here?
Well, Hassabis and Google, they believe that the next big leap forward is going to be something called multimodal learning. And this is where their new AI model, Gemini, comes in. It's designed specifically with this type of learning in mind.
Multimodal learning. That sounds intriguing. What exactly does that mean?
Okay, so imagine an AI that doesn't just process language like the models we have now, but can actually understand and combine information from all sorts of different sources, like images, videos, even sensory data.
So it's like how we experience the world
Yeah.
through all our senses, not just by listening to words.
Exactly. We humans, we're constantly taking in information through our sight, our hearing, touch, smell, everything. Our brains combine all of that to make sense of the world, and that's what multimodal AI is trying to replicate.
So instead of having separate AI systems for understanding text and then another one for understanding images and so on, Gemini is being built to process all of that together.
That's the idea. And it's a crucial step towards developing AI that can truly understand the nuances of human communication and interact with us in a much more natural, intuitive way. Imagine a digital assistant, but one that doesn't just respond to your voice commands, but actually understands what's going on by analyzing pictures or videos that you show it. That's the kind of future we're talking about.
That's a pretty compelling vision, I have to say. But it also seems like we're moving into some uncharted territory here. And I know Hassabis himself has talked about the need for caution as AI gets more powerful and sophisticated.
Absolutely. As we get closer to that AGI goal, the stakes get a lot higher. We need to think carefully about the potential consequences and make sure we're developing this technology responsibly and ethically.
So what are some of the specific risks that worry experts like Hassabis? What are the potential downsides of AI that we need to be prepared for?
One of the biggest concerns is this idea of controllability. As AI systems become more autonomous, capable of making their own decisions, how do we make sure that those decisions align with human values and goals? How do we stay in control?
Right. We don't want a situation where AI becomes so intelligent that it starts pursuing its own agenda, maybe even one that doesn't include us.
It's a valid concern and one we can't just ignore. And it's not just about preventing some kind of Hollywood AI takeover scenario, but really thinking about how we build AI systems from the ground up with the right safeguards in place.
So it's not so much about AI becoming evil or malicious, but about the potential for unintended consequences, like AI misinterpreting our instructions or coming to conclusions we didn't anticipate.
Exactly. Another concern is transparency. As these systems get more complex, even the people who created them often don't fully understand how they're making decisions. It's like this black box.
Okay, that is a bit unnerving. If we don't understand how AI is making its decisions, how can we trust it to make the right ones, especially when the stakes are high?
Right. And that's why a lot of people are calling for more transparency in AI development. We need to move away from this black box approach and create systems that can actually explain their reasoning in a way that humans can understand.
So it's not enough for AI to just tell us what it's doing. We need to know why it's doing it.
Exactly. And of course, we can't forget about the potential for misuse. As AI becomes more powerful and more readily available, there's always a risk that it could be used for malicious purposes.
Right. We've seen it time and time again. Technology can be used for good or for bad, and AI is no different. So how do we manage this? How do we balance the incredible potential of AI with these very real risks?
Nice, tough question. There's no easy answers, but I think the first step is open and honest dialogue. We need to have conversations about AI, ethics, and
Mm.
safety, and not just among technologists, but with policymakers, ethicists, and the general public. This is something that will impact all of us.
Right. We're all stakeholders in this, so we all need a voice at the table.
Her.
Now, bringing it back around, I'm curious, with Hassabis's background in cognitive neuroscience, do you think studying AI can actually teach us about how our own brains work? Could it be a two-way street?
Absolutely. It's a fascinating idea that's gaining a lot of traction. The more we learn about how to build artificial intelligence, the more we might discover about the nature of our own intelligence. For instance, if we can figure out how to get AI to learn and problem solve more effectively, that could give us valuable insights into how our own cognitive processes work, things like memory, learning, even creativity.
So it's not just about AI replicating human intelligence, but potentially helping us understand the human brain in ways we never could before.
Exactly. And that brings us back to Hassabis's idea of cautious optimism, right? There are risks to AI, no doubt, and we need to acknowledge and address those. But there's also this incredible potential for AI to not just change the world around us, but also deepen our understanding of ourselves.
It's like we're standing at the edge of a new frontier, not just in technology, but in our understanding of intelligence itself.
Well said. And as we venture into this new frontier, we need to do it with both a sense of wonder and a sense of responsibility.
So for everyone listening, everyone trying to wrap their heads around this rapidly evolving field, what's the key takeaway you want to leave us with?
I think the most important thing to remember is that the future of AI is not predetermined. It's not some inevitable outcome that we have no control over. The future of AI is something that we will create through the choices that we make today.
So it's not about passively watching as AI evolves, but about actively shaping how this technology develops and ensuring that it's used for the benefit of humanity.
Exactly. We need to approach AI development with ethics at the forefront, with
Yeah.
transparency, and always keep in mind the human impact of these powerful technologies.
It's a call to action for all of us, really.
Yeah.
To engage with this technology thoughtfully and make sure it aligns with our values and aspirations. It's a future that's both incredibly exciting and a bit daunting,
Yeah.
right? Full of potential and uncertainty. And as we've explored today, it's a future that is intricately intertwined with the future of humanity itself.
Well said. I think that's the perfect note to end on.
Indeed. As we continue to explore these frontiers of AI, it's a question worth pondering. What do we truly want to learn, and how can this technology help us build a better future for everyone?
It's like, think of it this way.
Yeah.
Imagine an AI that can take in information not just through words, but through images, videos, sensory data, all at the same time.
So it's not just processing language, but it's actually understanding the world more like we do, using multiple senses.
Exactly. Think about it. Humans, we experience the world through sight, sound, touch, all of it. Our brains combine all that sensory information seamlessly, right?
Right.
That's what multimodal AI is trying to do.
So instead of having like separate AI systems for each type of data, one for text, one for images, one for sound, Gemini is designed to process all of that together, kind of like a unified sensory input.
Exactly. And that's really important if we want AI that can actually understand the nuances of human communication, you know?
Yeah.
Interact with us in a more natural, intuitive way.
So like a much more advanced version of the digital assistants we have now.
Way more advanced. Imagine a digital assistant that not only understands your voice commands, but can also analyze a photo you show it or a video you're watching and actually understand the context.
Okay, that's impressive. But all this talk about more advanced AI, it kind of brings us back to Hassabis's call for cautious optimism, right? I mean, the more powerful these systems get, the higher the stakes.
Absolutely. As we inch closer to that AGI goal, we have to be incredibly mindful of the potential downsides. We need to make sure that we're developing this technology ethically and responsibly.
So what are some of those potential downsides? What are the risks that worry experts like Hassabis?
Well, one of the biggest concerns is controllability. As AI systems become more autonomous, able to make their own decisions,
Right.
how do we ensure that those decisions align with human values? How do we make sure that we retain control?
Because the last thing we want is for AI to become so intelligent that it starts making decisions that are, well, not in our best interest. Right.
Exactly. And it's not just about preventing some kind of Hollywood-style robot uprising. It's about ensuring that from the ground up, AI systems are designed with the right safety measures, the right ethical frameworks.
So it's more about the potential for unintended consequences than, like, AI becoming malicious.
Right. AI misinterpreting our instructions or drawing conclusions that we didn't anticipate.
Mm.
Another major concern is transparency. As these AI systems become more and more complex,
Yeah.
even the people who create them often struggle to understand how they're making decisions. It's like this black box.
And that's a bit unnerving, isn't it? I mean, if we don't understand how AI is arriving at its conclusions, how can we trust it to make the right decisions, especially when those decisions have real-world consequences?
It's a critical question, and it's why there's a big push for greater transparency in AI development. We need to move away from this black box approach and build systems that can actually explain their reasoning in a way that makes sense to us.
So we don't just need to know what AI is doing, but why it's doing it.
Exactly. And of course, we can't forget about the potential for misuse. As AI becomes more powerful, more accessible,
Mhm.
there's always a risk that it could be used for harmful purposes, whether it's by individuals, organizations, even governments.
It's like any powerful tool. It can
Yeah.
be used for good or for bad. So how do we navigate this? How do we balance AI's incredible potential with these very real risks?
There's no easy answers. But I think a crucial first step is fostering open and honest dialogue. We need to be having these conversations about AI ethics, about safety, and it can't just be technologists in a room. It has to include policymakers, ethicists, the public, everyone.
Right, because ultimately this is going to impact all of us. And speaking of impact, I'm curious, with Hassabis's background in cognitive neuroscience, do you think that there's potential for AI to actually teach us something about how our own brains work?
Absolutely. It's an incredibly fascinating area of research. The more we learn about building artificial intelligence, the more we might discover about the nature of our own intelligence. Like, imagine if we could figure out how to make an AI that's really good at learning new things or solving complex problems.
Yeah.
That could give us some really valuable clues about how our own cognitive processes work. Things like memory, learning, even creativity.
So it's not just about AI replicating human intelligence, it's about AI potentially illuminating human intelligence in ways we never thought possible.
Exactly. And I think that gets to the heart of Hassabis's cautious optimism. Yes, there are risks we need to acknowledge and address. But there's also this immense potential for AI to not just change the world around us, but to deepen our understanding of ourselves.
It's like we're on the verge of a whole new frontier, not just in technology, but in our understanding of what it means to be intelligent.
I love that. And as we venture into this new frontier, we need to do it with both a sense of wonder and a deep sense of responsibility for what we're creating.
So for everyone listening, everyone trying to wrap their heads around this rapidly changing world of AI, what's the key message you want to leave them with?
The future of AI is not predetermined. It's not some inevitable outcome that we have no control over. The future of AI is something that we will create through the choices that we make today.
So we can't just sit back and watch as AI evolves. We need to be active participants in shaping how this technology develops, making sure that it's used for the benefit of humanity.
Exactly. We need to prioritize ethics, transparency, and always be mindful of the human impact of this incredibly powerful technology.
It's a call to action for all of us to engage with this technology thoughtfully, make sure that it aligns with our values, with our hopes for the future. It's a future that's both incredibly exciting and a bit daunting, full of potential and uncertainty. And as we've explored today, it's a future that is fundamentally intertwined with our own.
Beautifully said. I think that's a perfect note to end on.
It is. As we continue to explore the frontiers of AI, it's a question worth pondering. What do we truly want to learn? And how can this technology help us build a better future for everyone?
Yeah, it really makes you think, doesn't it? Like, we're trying to create something that can think like us, but maybe in the process, we'll learn things about how we think that we never even considered before.
It's wild, right? And it's a really exciting time to be involved in this field. There's so much potential for discovery, both in terms of AI itself and what it can teach us about our own minds. It's like that old saying, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know, right?
Exactly. And I think that perfectly captures this moment in AI. The more progress we make, the more we uncover these new questions, these deeper mysteries about the nature of intelligence itself.
And that brings us back to Hassabis and his call for cautious optimism, doesn't it? I mean, yeah, there are risks. We can't ignore that. But there's also this incredible opportunity to learn and grow, both as a society and in terms of our understanding of, well, what makes us human.
I completely agree. We have to be cautious, absolutely, but also optimistic about the potential for AI to not just change the world, but to help us understand ourselves in ways we never thought possible.
It's like we're on the brink of something truly groundbreaking, a new era, not just for technology, but for humanity.
Beautifully put. And as we step into this new era, we have to remember to bring our sense of wonder, our curiosity, but also our sense of responsibility. We're not just building machines, we're shaping the future.
So for all of us out there trying to make sense of this rapidly changing landscape, what's the most important thing to keep in mind as we move forward with AI?
I think the most crucial takeaway is this. The future of AI is not set in stone. It's not some predetermined outcome that we're powerless to influence. The future of AI is something that we will decide collectively through the choices we make, the actions we take, starting today.
So no more passively watching from the sidelines. We all have a role to play in shaping how this technology develops, making sure it's used for good for the benefit of all.
Absolutely. We need to be proactive, not reactive. We need to approach AI development with a focus on ethics, transparency, and always keep in mind the human impact of the choices we make. It's about progress, yes, but progress with purpose.
Progress with purpose. I love that. It's a future that's both exciting and challenging, full of potential and uncertainty. But as we've explored in this deep dive, it's a future that's deeply intertwined with our own. The future of AI is the future of humanity.
Well said. Couldn't have said it better myself.
And on that note, it's time for us to wrap up. This is the Deep Dive. Signing off for today. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep your minds open to the incredible possibilities that lie ahead.